is from Historic Charleston Foundation's website. If you guys are nerds for maps like we are, I would really recommend checking this out because it shows you the peninsula over the years and how it's changed. And so we'll refer back to this several times during the tour because it's just really helpful, I think, to see how it fills in and where all the houses are kind of springing up from. So I just wanted you to know. You two can play with this particular map. All right, so this house behind us is 2 Ladson, and I will tell you, we know the owners of this house. So John and Betsy Cahill reside here now, and John is one of our board members at Drayton Hall. So I messaged him earlier and said we would all be milling about in front of their house this morning. But they're out of town. They said they would have loved to come say hi, but they're not home today.
We're not bothering them.
We are not bothering them, disturbing their morning coffee.
Yeah.
So this house is really interesting. Sarah and I spent a lot of time puzzling over this house because there's been some debate about whether or not this specific house is a Drayton house or not. So we can go all the way back to the beginning of the Carolina colony and the lots that were being given out by the Lord's proprietors. So this lot, or these 2 lots, I should say, originally went to Stephen Bull. And in his will, he said that they would then go to his son, William Bull, who became Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina. And so in 1706, Stephen dies, William gets the property. William's daughter, Charlotta, married John Drayton of Drayton Hall. John and Charlotta had 2 children, William Henry and Charles, and then she died after the birth of Charles in 1743. 3 years later, 3 years after his daughter dies, William Bull, saying that right? William Bull, there's a lot of Williams, actually deeds half of one of his Meeting Street properties, so that's Meeting Street. He deeds the back half of one of those properties to son-in-law, John Drayton. And then we get into some fun legal stuff. He does it by deed of easement, which basically means I'm giving you this property, but you have the ability to sell it or pass it on to your heirs. So now John Drayton has this property. William lives nearby at 35 Meeting, and so we think maybe he's looking out for the interests of his grandsons by doing this. Now there's a lot of back and forth about this house specifically and when it's built. Was this built for John Drayton or does it come later? And one of the things that really confuses the issue is that there's a 1788 fire insurance map, I think, that does not show this house. You don't see it on any sort of map until the 1790s. But what's interesting is another thing that doesn't show up is this lane that we're standing on. And we know this was here. This shows up as early as 1746. So it's telling that neither of those things are on the 1788 document. We think it's a surveyor's mistake. So if the lane is here, the house is back in play as well, as far as we're concerned. So Sarah is going to talk to us about some interior stuff, but before we go there, I'm just going to go through all the people, and then we'll kind of go inside, if that works for you. Yeah, okay, so let me flip ahead through some images. So the very first confirmed owner and resident of this house is William Skirving, and he moves in 1800. He's here from 1800 to 1813. He's a planter, and he's also very politically involved in the first and second provincial congress. He serves in the General Assembly. He's in the militia during the Revolutionary War, fights with Francis Marion, has a really impressive career. And even so, his grandchildren end up selling this house in 1813 to settle his debts. So the house conveys 4 times after his grandchildren sell it. The 4th purchaser of this house is Dr. Philip Tidyman. So now we have pictures for you again. So Dr. Philip Tidyman lives
This is not
here
Philip.
because Dr. Susan.
Philip was very beautiful. No.
Philip, oh no! Hold tight. So Philip Tidyman dies in 1859 with stuff we've already looked at. That's good news. Firemen Association, and during the Civil War, they were making clothes for Civil War soldiers in this house. Unfortunately, in 1863, the executor of the estate has to file a suit with the Court of Equity, and he says because of the ongoing war, the estate that's supposed to be kicking off this money that gives her her stipend every year is not performing very well, and they can't afford to keep her in this house anymore. And so they've got to sell everything, and they do. And so this is where Susan and Hester exit the picture. We've not followed that trail anymore to know what happens to them at that point. We know that the house conveys
We do
away
know
from her.
Susan Tidyman dies in 1864, so she basically dies a year after she is eliminated from this house. But we don't know what
Having a Hester.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got to figure out where Hester goes.
Yes.
All right.
How old were they around that time?
I don't remember. Do we have birth dates?
Yes. Hester was born in 1773. Oh,
Wow.
no, sorry, Hester Rose was born. Hester Tidyman was born in 1797. Oh, yes, she doesn't die until 1874. So she
Wow.
lives another 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. I hope she goes somewhere good.
that's right. So we thoroughly confused you.
Yeah.
All right, so just, I will recap this history. So John Drayton, original designer of Drayton Hall. His second wife is Charlotta Bull. She dies. So Charlotta gives birth to two babies. She dies immediately after the second one is born. It was her father that gives this land to John Drayton, we think specifically for those two babies. And to keep them kind of close and in the family, because obviously his daughter is dead, but he has these grandsons, so, you know, we want to keep that personal tie. And we actually know that later on, when Charles Drayton grows up, he goes over, he gets his medical degree in Scotland. He actually writes the dedication to his grandfather, that same grandfather who he dedicates his medical dissertation to. So clearly, as a grown man, he is still very fond of that maternal grandfather. So they did manage to keep that connection close. So now
Now we can go inside.
we're going to go inside. All right. So Trish has talked a lot about